So good morning, everybody, and very warm but not quite so warm welcome to our September Plymouth Food Aid Network meeting. Lovely to see so many of you in the room, and welcome to all of you that are watching on record. So we've got quite a full agenda today. So we've got a couple of guest speakers that have very kindly come along to join us. We've got Shelley England from the Trauma Informed Plymouth Network. That's quite a mouthful there. And Shelley's going to tell us all about her network and what they're doing and how they can support you. And we've got Hendrick, who is here from Promoting Children in Plymouth. I have to remember you're in a different role now. So a warm welcome to Kath, and she's going to be talking to you a little bit about the project that she's now involved in. And John is going to be joining us from TPT, and he's just got a couple of words he wants to say about the Hygiene Hub. If he can make it, he has got another commitment, I know, this morning, so hopefully he'll pop in. So Shelley, if that's okay, if we can just hand straight over to you. Floor is all yours. We can see your screen.
Yeah, I think I've shared the wrong thing though, so if you could just give me a second.
That's absolutely fine, no problem.
Thanks for bearing with me.
That's okay. Thank you.
Can you all see that?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so morning everybody. I'm Shelley. I'm one of the coordinators of the Trauma Informed Plymouth Network. My fellow coordinator is Nancy Hardwick, and we work together to coordinate our members' network, which I've come to talk to you about today. My pronouns are she and they. I'm not sure how many of you are aware of the network, but it's been around since about 2018. It began as 3 people in a room who were starting to think about the ACEs research that came out in the late 90s. ACEs stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences. And that research was a longitudinal study that tracked people from childhood into later life. And it found that people that had trauma or experiences, adverse experiences in their childhood, that went on to affect their life chances later in life. So it affected their work, their education, and their physical health. And so we had somebody from the NSPCC. One of our directors was from Harbour at the time, which is a substance misuse organisation, and police that kept bumping into each other at conferences and saying, you know, this is what we've been saying for years, that when people present in a certain way, it's often because of the trauma they've experienced and not just because it's a behaviour choice. And they were fed up with waiting for someone from the top to do something about it. So they set up the network, invited people to meetings. There were like 3 at the first meeting, then 7, then 14, and it's literally grown ever since. So it's a real grassroots, place-based network designed for Plymouth. So it's built with our city in mind. Yeah, but we're not just Plymouth. So just because it says Trauma Informed Plymouth in the title doesn't mean that if you're not from Plymouth, you can't join. We've got people from New Zealand, Cork, all over the country that have joined our network because of what it offers. And hopefully you might find it interesting as well to join if you're not already. Because we're an open learning network of individuals. So we ask people to join as individuals rather than the organisations, because we were looking to create a grassroots change to the system. And we share all of our knowledge about trauma-informed approaches, how that impacts the work that we do, how we can support people better, and shape the system so that it becomes more effective and more compassionate for the people that we support. We started off by sending out a survey to all of our members in 2018. And what came back was that there was a real need for trauma-informed training. People had heard of trauma-informed approaches, but weren't really quite sure what that was. So the network developed a training program that it's been delivering ever since. And it's since gone out now to over 3,000 members of 3,000 members or 3,000 people in Plymouth and beyond who have been upskilled in trauma-informed approaches. And I'll give you a brief overview of that if you're not familiar, and then a link where you can go to get further training if you like. And alongside that, the membership grew. So we're just under 1,000 members now. So it's slowly grown over time. Yeah, so we're excited and delighted that the trauma-informed message is spreading out to all of our members. So I'll share a little bit about what our membership is made up of in a minute. But the early membership put together a document that you can find on our website called Envisaging Plymouth as a Trauma-Informed City. It's a fantastic document. It's about 28 pages long, and it gives you an overview of what trauma is and how working in a trauma-informed way can support what we do. So it reflects upon the emerging evidence of the adverse childhood study and how we can take learning from that and bring it to our city as we know it. So we promote the trauma-informed approach amongst our communities, agencies, our partnerships, whether it's statutory, voluntary, charitable sector. Basically, it's open for anybody that works with people or may have an experience of trauma themselves. Inside that document, there's the Plymouth Trauma Lens, which was developed in the membership, which has values at its heart. And I'll share that in a minute. I've got a slide to talk to you about that. And we just continue to spread the vision, really. So we have as you can see behind me, we have the symbol of the tree as our emblem of the network. So we sort of envisage Plymouth as a forest. If you imagine Plymouth as a forest, and it's full of trees, and all trees provide different things for the people of the forest or the city, which it might be resources like wood or shelter and shade or food in terms of fruit. So every tree is doing their bit for the people of Plymouth. And I don't know if you know or not, but all forests are connected underneath the ground by a mycelium network. So it's a fungal network that helps a forest act as one organism. So if there's a tree on the edge of the forest, for example, that can't get hold of resources, the mycelium network will share it. So as a part of that forest, as that system, we take our learning out to the other trees of the forest, but we also learn from the trees of the forest and bring it in. So what we have is a dynamic learning of trauma-informed approaches that we hope we take in, sort of process, spread back out alongside all the other trees that we're living and working alongside in Plymouth. So we're hoping to shape the system so that it becomes more compassionate for the people that we work with. We say that the voice of lived experience is at the centre because it's really hard to find anyone that hasn't been impacted by trauma in one way or another. We say that trauma is everybody's business. And so we listen to the voice at grassroots level of people that have actually been there and use that to help shape a system so that it meets their needs more effectively. So we currently have 7 branches in the network. These are our branches. So these are like different specialisms that have grown up over time. So we have our whole membership, and then we have areas of expertise, if you like. So we have the workforce development branch, which is committed to supporting the people who support people. Because what we recognise is that when you work with people who might be managing trauma, that we take on a lot of that emotional load as well as people working with them. So it's about supporting our workforce to make sure that they're upskilled in trauma-informed approaches, but also provide support for them in terms of the secondary and vicarious trauma that people can experience when they work in a system that is either traumatized itself or with traumatized people. So it does impact us. So that branch is committed to learning around that. We've got the lived experience branch, which is a branch of people that have been deeply affected by trauma who are working together to help affect system change. We have the Plymouth Mental Health Collective that recognised that the mental health landscape was quite difficult to navigate. And so thought they would, we've got community people working on improving mental health, we've got statutory services, we've got secondary and primary care. So it looks to bring all of us together so that we can learn from each other and just know what's out there, actually, because it's quite a peppered landscape that's not totally joined up for people when it comes to navigating it. The care experience branch, the criminal justice branch, care experience works with people that are working with or are fostered or adopted. So because that they recognise that trauma is at the basis of that. The criminal justice system, there's a recognition that it might need to develop its understanding of people that it's working with in terms of how they present in court and how sometimes behaviour isn't choice. Sometimes it's a complex mix of situational factors plus the person. And so it helps promote a bit more of an expanded view of that person so that we can treat them with more justice. I don't know if any of you have seen the Jodie Comer film, Prima Facie, that sort of speaks to that, because quite often emotional dysregulation comes with people that have suffered trauma. And so when people are emotionally dysregulated, it's really hard for them to be their best selves. And the trauma-informed approach asks us to look beyond that behaviour to the person behind it. We've got an education branch, which is seeking to encourage trauma-informed approaches in schools. And our inclusion and resilience branch is about people that making sure that everyone's included. So we consider intersectionality like race, disability, gender, age, anything really that might serve to marginalise people. So there's lots of work going on. We've also got the allyship branch that sits under the inclusion and resilience. So that's people that recognise that we may all have been tainted by racist ideology unconsciously. And as a result, we might be unconsciously working with a bias towards people of race. And so that's a gathering of people that are working together to raise their own self-awareness about that. So this is our trauma lens, and these are the values that we have at the heart of our network. We aim for everything to be safe, because we can't guarantee complete safety, no one can. That the way that we work is person-centred, which means we start with the person and whatever they bring. So there's no other agenda but that, really, and connecting them in with whatever's needed to help them thrive. We are kind, empowering and collaborative. But we use the lens as a whole, because sometimes these words can be tricky. Language is difficult, because what does it mean to be kind? And sometimes in our roles, we may have to make very difficult decisions that impact people severely. For example, people having their children taken away from them, for example, because of safeguarding. But it's about recognising that we can do that. That's not a kind thing necessarily for that person who might experience it as anything but kind, but we can work in a kind way to make that as de-traumatising as possible. So what is a trauma-informed approach? I'll just tell you very quickly. Some of you may already know what it is, but it works with these R's. All these words begin with R's. We realise that it exists and that it has a widespread impact for people. We recognise how it shows up in the behaviour of the person and how they present themselves. And that includes the workforce, when people feel stressed or they're under pressure or feel threatened, that we behave in a way that is designed to ensure we survive that. And reason and rationality quite often take a back seat when we're in those places, and it's about recognising that that's what happens. We think about how we respond when that happens. How do we attune with people who are emotionally suffering or in pain and presenting in a way that might be threatening or very upsetting? How do we respond? And that includes our policies, procedures and practices as well. So we interrogate those and make sure that they are as kind as possible, so that we resist re-traumatizing people. So we shape our system to make sure that our system isn't unwittingly causing more harm. So for example, and I'm plucking this out of the air, sometimes systems will have a rule where it's like, if you don't engage, or if you don't attend 3 appointments, then you go back to the waiting list, to the back of the queue. But actually, we might encourage people to recognise that that disengagement might actually be a trauma response. So we look to resist practices that might re-traumatise people. We understand that trauma is just one side of the coin. Actually, great resilience can come out of trauma. It's not a sort of predictory thing that if you've had trauma, this is going to happen to you. You can get actually quite a lot of life-giving things can come out of trauma. So people can become more resilient than they were before. So there is such a thing as post-traumatic growth, which we encourage, and that comes through healthy, trusting relationships. So what the research shows is that when there are healthy, trusted relationships in place, people can manage the most complex trauma. And so relationships are key to everything that we do. It's not an R, but we also recognise that cultural, historical, and other intersectional factors affect people's trauma. These are the official definitions of trauma, what it actually is. So these come from our gov.uk document, which is taken from the SAMHSA, which is Substance Abuse and Mental Health Association, I think, but don't quote me. But they use that document to come with this official definition of what trauma is. So traumatic events are those in which a person is harmed, where there is serious threat of harm, or where a person sees someone else being harmed. I would say it doesn't have to be a serious threat. It really does depend. And it's not the event that causes the trauma, but the person's reaction to it. So we recognise that different people can react to the same trauma differently, depending on their dispositions, the social context that they're in, and the other supportive factors that they have in place. So, and we try not to be thinking about what's wrong with this person. It's about what's happened to you, and understanding that however they are presenting is a normal response to an abnormal situation. So there are all sorts of things that can cause trauma. There can be a single event, like a car crash, or a birth trauma, a divorce can cause trauma, or it can be developmental, like happen over a course of a lifetime with the relationships that that person experiences. It can also start in utero. If you think of somebody's managing substance abuse like alcoholism, when they're pregnant, baby is impacted by that, and that has long-standing impact on the baby. Things like community trauma. So if we think about our own city and Kiam, that has an impact on how safe people feel in the world. And when people feel unsafe, they are more likely to present in a trauma response and in more need of a trauma-informed response to that. It can also mean adverse community environments. So people who are brought up in an area, for example, that is known to have regular violence or see and hear violence, often that can cause trauma over time. It's like a drip feed of trauma that shapes the individual. And that this slide here shows all the different ways that trauma can happen, and very often is a mixture of many. And when we experience trauma or stress, or we feel threatened, there tends to be these 5 responses. So people will tend to fly away from it, run away from it, which is the flight, fight back, which can be aggression that we see, sometimes a mixture of both. So flight, for example, can be a flight into work, or a flight into learning, or a flight into something else. Freeze is when something happens and you get arrested, but it's not a passive state, it's actually very active. All of your senses come online because your senses are taking information in from the outside, so that you can form a response. And that can happen sometimes with children that I've worked with before, for example, that I know have had a history of domestic abuse. When they walk into a new place, when they meet new people, their eyes dart everywhere because they're sort of taking in information from the environment, like where's the door, who are these people, picking up on every little clue. But while they're in that state, they can look like they're not relating very well. There's also the two lesser known ones like fawn. So fawn is a bit like people pleasing, which sometimes employers love this one because the workforce do it because they want to people please, they work hard, we work harder than we should and for longer than we should, because we want to please. And that, that comes from something like Stockholm syndrome, where they found that people who were on the receiving end of cruelty have learned that if they're not able to fight back or run away, that fawn is a response that can keep you safe. So you get alongside that person, and sometimes align yourself with that person so that you protect yourself. And flop is something like burnout, when literally your body, through exhaustion, will just flop and you might fall asleep or sit comatose for hours. I used to work in school and I can remember coming home and literally sitting down on the sofa and my husband coming in, the room had gone dark and he's like, are you going to bed? And I hadn't done anything for like 3 hours. I just got home and stared at the telly, but hadn't noticed what was going on around me. So that was a bit of a flop situation. And they're all indicators that you might be under extreme stress or emotional load. And that behaviour is communicating, it's telling something. We also recognise that to be trauma-informed, you need to be shame sensitive. We've recently worked with Professor Luna Donazal of Exeter University to develop shame sensitive training, which is like the next layer of trauma-informed training. So if you've been on a trauma-informed training, we now have shame sensitive training. I can share these slides with you, but there's a link to book on that. It's £15 per person, but it is excellent training to reinforce any trauma-informed training that you might have had before. And we usually end on this slide because, as I said at the beginning, trauma is everybody's business, and it doesn't always need a very expensive service or response. It's actually recognizing that every interaction, everything that we do with others that involves relationship can be an intervention and has an impact. So a smile, a welcome, remembering when somebody might be presenting in a way that might seem aggressive or upset or stressed, that there's something behind that behaviour that's causing that to happen, and reaching out to that person with compassion rather than irritation or reaching their level of aggression. And when we do that, it often calms down and then we can begin relating. So every interaction is an intervention. You can find our training on the Plymouth Children's Safeguarding Partnership website, or you can contact us on email. We have a website. If you just Google Trauma Informed Plymouth, you can join to become a member, and we have a monthly newsletter, guest speakers, all sorts of resources on our website that you can access for free. We also have a YouTube channel where we record our speakers if you want to find out anything else to do with trauma-informed related stuff. I feel like I've rattled that out for you. I hope that was okay. I'm happy to take any questions if there's time, Tammy, but I'll let you decide.
Oh, thank you, Shelley. No, it was really very, very interesting. Yeah, I thought I knew all about you, but I clearly didn't either. So there we go. So no, very, very interesting. Thank you. Has anybody got any questions? We will share the, if it's okay, Shelley, to share the slides afterwards.
Yes, I'll email them you. Yeah.
And we can, so people can sign up. If people wanted to attend training, would it be something that you'd be able to put on specifically for the network so people from our members could come together and be together? Just maybe, nicer to have everybody in a room. Is
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we have a full day training that we can do face to face, or a half day online training, which isn't as good, but we've got to be pragmatic with time and costs, etc. If you're supporting people in the community, currently it's free. So if you work with people with multiple disadvantage, we can come and do that for you. We also have a 2-hour secondary and vicarious trauma training for your workforce. So it's a lovely 2-hour meeting to help people recognise how they might be impacted by the work that they do and how to take care of ourselves and support collective care. So it's not about self-care, although that is important, We also talk about collective care, like how we work together in our teams to make sure that we look out for each other so that we can do our jobs well. So yeah, so just get in touch with us, Tammy. We can book a date and discuss that, certainly, if that's something you want to put on.
Lovely, thank you. I mean, I must admit, the training for workforce, I know so many organisations have got teams of volunteers. Hillary's on the call now, and probably Hillary, you're probably thinking the same. You've got a lot of volunteers that would probably really benefit from that, and they're looking out for each other is so important, because most of these organisations can't work without their volunteers. So it's really important that we look after them.
Exactly. And very often, if you're in a place and you start to feel stressed, there's shame around that. You know, sometimes there's a shame of having to admit that you're not coping. But what we advocate is that people speak up and say when that's the case, and to be conscious, because it can creep up on you without you realising it.
Yeah, absolutely. Has anyone got any questions at all? No, everybody will probably think of questions afterwards, and so if we'll get your contact details, as I say, Shelley, we'll pass those on.
Yeah, please do. And yeah, really lovely to come today. Thanks for everything that you do as well for people.
You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting if you'd like to. If you've probably got lots to do, so that's absolutely fine too.
I have got lots to do, so if it's okay, I'll head off now. But do connect if you've got a question, just send us an email. All right.
We will do. Thanks, Shelley.
Take care. Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye. That was very, very interesting. So yes, if you've got any questions that you think throughout the meeting or afterwards, just drop me an email or get in touch with the WhatsApp chat, and we'll just pass on any questions. Kath, could we come to you and
hello.
You'd like to introduce yourself and tell everybody what you're doing and why you're here?
Well, formerly known as Kath from the co-op. A few people on here I know. Yeah, I'm working for Promoting Children in Plymouth. Some people call it PSIP, some people say PCIP, but basically it's about eradicating poverty, which is an impossible task, I think, really. But one of the things that we're doing at the moment, and we're launching tomorrow, is Dolly Parton's Imagination Library. So we're launching this in the four most deprived wards of Plymouth, which is Devonport, Stonehouse, St Budo and St Peter in the Waterfront. So every child between the ages of 2 and 5 can, the parents need to sign up obviously, but it's not a massive form. So they get a free book every month during that period, because the statistics of children not having books is horrific. And when they go to school, they're not book ready. They don't know how to hold a book, turn a page, or, you know, and that language development and all that sort of stuff that goes with it. So we've got a few sponsors along the way. It's cost quite a lot of money to do this, and it's going to be initially a 3-year period for all of these children. We've got about 400 signed up so far with a soft launch. So I just wanted to come really and say, because you work with people in deprived areas and probably disadvantaged families, I wanted you to know about it in case if you want any flyers, I can give you flyers. You might have families that have got young children, so I'm going to provide Devon next week after, whenever I'm going to go, so that they can put some leaflets in for families that have had an emergency parcel from them. So yeah, it was just another way to spread the word, really, coming to share with you. So yeah, if anybody wants any flyers or any information, I can send a digital flyer, or I can physically send some to you if you want any, if you work with groups. So I know, Tammy, you work with Trevi sometimes, so maybe that might be a place where children can get books. And the bonus is they even get a birthday message from Dolly Parton once a year as well. So yeah, it's a great project. just to get the books into the hands of children, really. So yeah, if anybody has any questions, please fire away. I know I rattled through that again quickly.
Can you do a digital link for us that we can send out to people? We've got it here at our local school, so I do it with my daughter.
Yeah.
It's not means tested at all. Anyone can do it, and they encourage everybody to do it. I know there is an age restriction, isn't there? It's like birth to 5, I think.
Yeah, we're doing you can get it birth to 5, but we're doing 2 to 5 because obviously the cost, and we want to get it to as many children as possible. So yeah, we're only doing the 2 to 5 years, which is still, you know, quite a few books, isn't that? 36 books.
Yes.
So yeah, and we've linked up with the nurseries in those areas so that the nurseries will have the book, so they know the books that the children have got that month, so they can do additional work on that. We are linking with City College as well. They want to do a Bring a Book to Life project. So whether we don't know what it's going to be yet, whether they make puppets or a film or whatever to go with a particular book. So then we will link up with the nurseries next year, and they'll present their work on Bring a Book to Life as well.
Lovely. Yeah, I will share it with all of our food co-ops with the digital links so we can get some people signed up. I know it was a postcode thing. We tried to get some people signed up last time and they weren't in the right postcode from the school.
Definitely postcode. So I went to St Levan's Fun Day, and where College Road Primary School is, that road on the end of it, one side is whatever ward it is, and the other side comes into I think it's Ham. So depending on really which side of the street you lived, whether you were eligible or not, but I guess they have to draw lines somewhere.
It's worth a try. People just literally they ask you to put your postcode in and it'll say yes, you're eligible and you can continue admission, or no, you can't. So yeah, that's what I'll say to people. You know, it is worth a try. Have a go.
Definitely. So what's your email, Kelly?
Should I write it in the chat? I'll write it in the chat, and then
that would be better.
Kath, have you been in contact with Plymouth City Council? We need to tap into all the families in B&Bs. The OYO Hotel often has families in there with young children. So I think that would be a good point of contact, because people in B&Bs and the OYO Hotel and places could miss out.
Yeah,
definitely. Thank you, Hilary. Brilliant.
Nice to see you, Kath.
And you. It's been a while, isn't it? I'm like, oh, there's Kelly, there's Tammy. Yeah, it's nice to see everyone. I do miss my sort of co-op days and getting out and about, but yeah, less said about that the better at the minute. Who knows? I might end up going back. Don't know. We'll see. But yeah, while I'm here, on another subject, we are also running family kitchens. We've done this before my time, and it was run with Devonport Live. So again, people in those deprived areas, and I think this was mainly sort of Stonehouse, Devonport areas. But the Devonport Live Cafe, it was great, but they weren't so great at sort of giving us feedback and stuff like that. So we're going to try something different, and that's working with the schools' kitchens. So we're going to High Street, and the kitchen manager, the chef at High Street, is going to be running this family kitchen. So we really just want to let you guys know, and if there was any way we could sort of align with you or anything that you do, or don't know really. But yeah, it's not started yet. We're still waiting for dates and things. But yeah, so we're going to trial it at High Street, see how it goes. And hopefully it'll be, you know, that the parents, carers and the children learning and cooking together. Fingers crossed. So yeah, anything that you can contribute to that or want to.
Sorry, Catherine. I don't know if you're aware, but at the Village Hub, we just got funding to install a kitchen. And we're based in Stoke Village, so in that catchment area for Devonport and Stoke. It's not very big, but it's, you know, it could be, you know, I just thought I'd mention it. You know, we were getting all the things in place that we need with the help of Tammy and others to make sure we do everything properly. And I just see V is also mentioned. They've got the Stone House. Sorry, my brain is, but yeah, I saw she's commented on there as well. So I think there's little hubs around that you could also access and maybe do smaller, you know, sessions. But anyway, I just thought I'd mention it, and maybe I haven't thought of that because yeah, V would be a good one to contact as well about that. And yeah, and like I said, we've literally just got our kitchen, so that'd be quite interesting to see, you know.
So V is at Stonehouse. I'm reading the.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I've gone completely blank. My brain is fuzzy. And then yes, I can get Nick or Andrew to contact you from the Village Hub. You know, because I've got another hat on. I'm also at the Village Hub, but I was here for a different reason. But definitely, that would be something quite exciting. I think
you've actually potentially got a kitchen in the Village Hub now.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's Lisa. I'm just making notes because I'll go to back to my manager, because obviously I don't know.
We don't know how, you know, if
around.
It works or what, but you know, just that might be an option. Yeah.
Cool. Brilliant. Well, thank you everyone for your time. Great to see you. And yeah, if there's anything that we can do, or I'll send some flyers to Kelly. And thank you, Hilary. I'll have a look at the, never thought about that, the Oyo hotels and B&Bs. Yeah, brilliant. And thank you, Tammy, for letting me come and jump in.
That's all right, you're very welcome. If you send me a digital flyer, what we'll do is when we send out the recording, we'll include the flyer with your contact details as well, so then everybody's got that. Great. Rather than us going backwards and forwards.
Okay.
And if you want to have a chat at some point, we can see how we can coordinate and get you linked in one way or another. So
fantastic.
The other people you could talk to about distributing flyers, which is what we've been doing, or I've been doing, is Fair Share. So they've been really kind in allowing me to go up and take flyers, so when they're delivering, but if you say to them which areas, that I'm sure they'll be more than happy to drop flyers down on your behalf.
Okay, lovely. Yeah, it's just sort of getting it out there at the minute, isn't it? So yeah, I think we've got a piece going in the Chronicle after the launch tomorrow, so next couple of weeks and stuff. So but yeah, again, putting it in the paper is all very well, but if what we're trying to do is break that cycle of not reading. So yeah, brilliant. Okay, thank you for your time. Lovely to see you all. Have a good rest of the day.
Bye.
Bye.
That's really interesting. Kev, don't want to put you on the spot, but have you got any updates or anything on the bridge, or on anything that you wanted to share with anybody?
Hopefully by the next meeting, I'll be able to go into more celebratory detail. But yeah, our warehouse is currently going through the solicitor phase at the moment, so we're just kind of ironing out things there. And yeah, looking at kind of equipment procurement, and yeah, just hold fast is all I can say at the moment. We're in a good catalyst spot to really start showing what we can do. I'm at this moment I'm having to stay a little bit more tight-lipped.
And how about the forms? Have you had some good responses at all? Do you need to do any jogging memories at all?
No, I appreciate everything that people have done with the PFAN network. We had a really good response in regards to the surveys. And yeah, we're going to look at using some of that information now to kind of mold our services a bit better around that feedback. So yeah, huge thank you to the PFAN network. Oh,
that's brilliant news. And while we're talking about that, just wanted to say, a big thank you to everybody that came along to our in-person meeting that we held in August, which seems actually a really long time ago. But that was lovely. So thank you to 4Greens for allowing us to host that there. A really good atmosphere. A lot of people dropped in, good conversations, some really good networking. So we'll look at doing that probably again, maybe January when it's really warm. And we can all get together in person after, the lull of the Christmas period and everything. Might be nice to bring everybody together then, and just put that one in your diary. But the rest of the dates for the ones moving forward, they are on the newsletter that you'll be receiving as well. So, Kelly, did you have anything that you wanted to update anybody on or anything at all? Not putting you on the spot.
Always do that. No, so we've got 7 of our co-ops up and running. We've got the Elm. They start next week as a co-op, and then we've got our very last co-op as part of the funding from the UK Prosperity Fund, and that's starting in Plymstock before Christmas. And then they are all done. And there will be one co-op social supermarket that starts next year based at Millfields. And then that is our funding all complete for all of those co-ops, all set up, operational and running. But yeah, we are 3/4 of the way through at the moment. It's going well. Going well.
Yeah, well done. Oh, that's really good news. Good to hear. So,
where will the Plymstock one be?
We're still deciding that. So we're working with TPT. We're working with 2 of the schools. And so we're just going through with them now. We meet next week to discuss a venue, because we've looked at 3 possible venues, but with linking the churches all together and the schools, we want a venue that fits for everybody, where they can also use it at the time that Fair Share can deliver. That's one of our biggest constraints, really, when they can get the delivery to them.
Okay. So it's worth keeping John Stevens, one of the councillors in Plymstock, involved. In fact, they're all pretty active, the councillors in Plymstock. So they would want to be involved. They would want to know what's happening. I'll let John know, because he's a super volunteer as well. But yeah, but I live in Plymstock. That's why I'll be very interested to know where it is.
Yeah, so does John Williams from TPT, actually, and that he's gone to lots of the meetings and was able to tell us that one of the main parts of the feedback from the community meeting that they did was that they would like a food co-op or a food bank or food support coming into Plymstock, because it has been viewed by others that actually it's an affluent area and we shouldn't be putting food support into Plymstock. And so it was brilliant to be able to have that from people in Plymstock that said, this is actually what we'd like. And those are the words they used. And it came out on like 3 out of the 4 as one of the top things that was needed in Plymstock.
It's the same, isn't it? It's always the postcode, what they say, the postcode lottery. We've got the same in Plimpton as well. So we're looking at currently supporting somebody to a new community centre to open a community fridge, and looking at applying for funding for that, which will be exciting. And again, yeah, we've got support from PTH, but it's the wrong postcode for so many, and it's difficult, isn't it? Really difficult. So I think what we've done is we've covered everything on the agenda. Unfortunately, John was unable to join us, but he's going to come along to the October meeting to give us an update on the Hygiene Hub. So he said he'll have a lot of news by then. So we look forward to hearing that from John. So I think what we'll do is we'll say goodbye to everybody who's watching on record and give you all 10 minutes back. And we'll look forward to seeing you all in our October meeting.